and welcome back to another radio roundup from the Sunday podcast, brought to you guys by sportsnews.com. As always, lots to talk about today, don't we, Matt?
Absolutely, mate. Bath half review, we'll talk about that. British champ, British title on the line. New York half, Podium Classic was on the weekend. NCAAs, George Cootie gets second in the mile. We'll preview the World Indoors in a couple of days' time. That kicks off on Thursday, Friday. And then also talk about, we had a marathon. Well, I almost class it as a world record, 2:10:53, seeing as Chepengetich was obviously still holds that 2:09 world record of hers. So that went down. There was a great study that came out around wavelights and the impact of wavelights, which I think we could talk a little bit more on as well. So big episode. We've got some help, thankfully. We've got some experts coming on. But should we quickly, I guess, what headline caught your eye? What was the most impressive thing this weekend? For me, it's probably what I saw in New York, to be honest. The boys
I think if we're talking most impressive, I think the New York one catches the eye. I think I made the comment to you before we start recording, though, that just love to see a British champs race, if you like. So I think for me, the Bath half was where I was focusing my attention. And I'd have loved to see Paddy and Rowe over in the Bath half instead of New York, but fantastic results for them, obviously prepping for London Marathon.
Huge. I mean, Paddy's second all time behind Farah. On sub 60 on that course in New York, it's a huge time. Yeah, their preparations are obviously going very, very well. The PB for him as well, 60:17. Again, on that course, he's starting to look at him like he's worth a sub 60. And that Puma group in general are absolutely crushing it. I mean, they had Meyer, they had Peter Lynch. Trying to think, they had someone else in there as well. His name slipped me, but had sort of 5 in that top group. So Craggs and what those guys and girls are doing, it's very, very impressive. But Megan Keith coming third. And I think for me, it was, 67. Again, on that course is outrageous. You would expect Keith to run something outrageous given her 10K credentials, but it's more who she beat, like beating Sharon Lekedi and, someone who's an experienced marathoner. I think that's going to excite Megan Keith for the future. What's to come for her? When does she make that transition to the road? She was a little bit like Grant Fisher. This was her debut. This was her just dabbling her foot in the water. She smashed it out of the ballpark. Whereas Grant Fisher, on the other hand, struggled, and I was surprised how much he struggled, to be honest with you. Couldn't handle the surges, probably couldn't handle the course. He seems to be doing a lot of training, following certain numbers these days, taking his lactates, and maybe he just needs to get back to some hard yards when it comes to the half.
Yeah, I guess it depends if he's sticking to it, because I think I saw a video probably in the summer where he was speaking about how all his session volume had reduced a lot. And it was paying off for him post those kind of indoor world records. But if you're then going to start, it depends what the half's for, right? But if he's really going to commit to the roads, then you think, well, mate, you probably want to start bringing them back up again and get on your Bauman sessions, to be honest. Because he was talking about sort of doing 5 miles worth of volume in sessions and just hitting real quality, but it's just simply not enough.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've taken. The snippets I've seen from his sessions, that's exactly what I've taken from it as well. Mate, best session of the week, though, that goes to Grecia. I saw Grecia's now got a YouTube channel as well. 10-400s off a minute, averages 55, high 56.
That's all you need, mate, on a Tuesday night. That was 10-4s on a Tuesday.
Extremely impressive. Yeah. I mean, yeah, well, I guess we'll get into the track stuff as we preview World Indoors. But and I got to give credit to Obiri was class, but Wild Shoot as well. He's the real deal, that kid. Like he's always impressed us, hasn't he? And goes and absolutely crushes, makes it look easy, and he gives off Kip Limo vibes on the roads for me. Just the way he's got a similar style, just the way he just skips over the ground. It's very deceiving when he puts his foot down, and he just looks extremely relaxed at all times, and seems to handle the constant impact and the pounding of the roads really well. In comparison to basically the others in that pack who started to labour, and that's something Grant talks about, just that impact beyond 10 miles of running really catches up with you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we mentioned obviously Grant struggling down in 14th, but he still run sub 61 on a debut. But I think it's more of, if you, like you said, if you look at the guys who beat him, we're not expecting someone like Jack Rowe to be putting 40 odd seconds on Grant Fisher. Question for you, mate. Jack Rowe, Paddy Diva, fabulous runs. In terms of marathon prep, though, is that too quick?
I see what you're saying.
Is that too hard a run? Is that too...
But is it too good?
Too half marathon specific?
Yeah. They've still got 6 weeks, right? They've got 6 weeks from today, and I don't even think they haven't been to altitude, which is just crazy. And apparently they're going to go to altitude now. And I've always thought they don't use altitude that much, that group, but they're going to go up now for that last 4-5 week block until they get down into London. I guess we don't know how they've prepared for it and how they recover off the back of this, but one thing I would say is Paddy has repeatedly sort of done that. Like he's attacked, like Rowe hasn't, his marathons haven't quite clicked yet, but he too has attacked hard halves in the build up to a marathon. And Paddy's done it the last couple times now. Like obviously when we saw Paddy in New York, like he was hammering half marathons, whether it be Copenhagen. I mean, it was only a year ago he debuted, I think, for the half, but they're used to running. I mean, Paddy's probably run 4 races. Like obviously that was sub 60, a couple of others at 60. Rowe similar, like Copenhagen. And so I think they're probably quite used to that rhythm now, and they probably needed that hard hit out. And I guess it just depends what they're going for, but you'd like to think they can go run 206 off of that sort of a half. Like if you're breaking 60, surely you've got a 206, 205 in the bag.
I'll be hoping to, won't it? They will be hoping to, and they'll be going off at that pace. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Time will tell. Obviously, wishing those guys the best prep. Over in Bath, then, mate. A couple minutes back, but 62 minutes on that Bath course is not so bad at all, is it? Wakefield takes the win, Sessman second, Manthorpe in third, Jake Smith outside the medals in fourth place. And then on the women's side, Alex Bell took the win, Jess Warner-Judd second, Laura McNeil third, and Verity Hopkins fourth. I think that's a prediction on the winners, mate. I think we said Wakefield and Bell. We backed the track pedigree last week. Any surprises? Yeah. In terms of the rest of the results?
Actually, yeah, no surprises. Like, I guess that's just kind of what you would expect. I think when you just look at Wakefield, and he's obviously run exceptionally fast over the half anyway, and they're never going to drop him. And yeah, if he's there with a K to go, he was always going to beat Sessman. He was always going to beat Manthorpe. Like, he's just got more power, more turnover. And so he's deadly in that setting. And he's someone I think who's just really enjoying the half marathon. What I find interesting is the different approaches going into this race. Like you look at, I think Wakefield ran 45 miles last week. You compare that to the likes of Sessman and Manthorpe, and even going in, like, Wakefield's mileage is, a fraction of what those guys are doing. I mean, I think he peaked at 74 miles in his whole build.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jake Smith ran his biggest ever week a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The difference is those guys are preparing for a marathon, so they're not going to have the turnover. They're not going to have that change of gears that Wakefield has, to be honest. But yeah, he got the job done, and now he can focus on that World Road Running Championships. Felt a little bit sorry for Manthorpe and for coming third, but yeah, Sessman manages to just squeeze by as well and get that qualification.
Yeah, so obviously top 2 auto qualified for the World Road Running Champs in the half marathon.
A lot of them were just stating how comfortable they felt, which I think is encouraging. If you're feeling comfortable running 62 lows on a course like that, your chances are you're in a good place. Sessman, interesting. You talk about people running a hard half close to London. He's off to Berlin to smash a half. In this, and that'll end up being 3 weeks before London, or maybe 4 weeks before London.
Interesting, mate. Interesting. I think the approaches maybe are changing in terms of more and more people doing that. I just think traditional build, we used to see a lot more people almost run quite a measured half 4 to 6 weeks out, didn't we?
I think this is where people are with their training, though. They can handle it now. They can handle it. They can bounce back. They can recover. You just think about all the nutrition. Obviously, super shoes make a big difference, but...
Yeah, and a bit of bang for your buck as well, I think. I think some people are like, well, I'm doing all this training, I may as well cash in and run a quick time over something else as well. So you mentioned obviously Manthorpe just in third. Will they take him? Or will people from elsewhere get picked?
Look, it's fine margins. He's unfortunate to finish third and just miss out. But yeah, unless he goes and runs something silly this summer, or that you would have thought if someone like Diva, if someone like Rowe wants to do it, guys who have run 60, even Mill wants to do it, which he may well do. We've got guys who can run 60 O's, and maybe Manthorpe can, and maybe he will, but I think they would just pick, with those last 2 spots, they'll pick the fastest 2 men who want to do it. The same on the women's side, they'll pick the fastest 2 women who want to go race. Yeah. And I guess that's why they design a selection policy like they have. And I guess you couldn't blame Mark Scott for that, because he was the one kicking off that they were going to just select the team straight after this race. All 4 spots would be selected. But yeah, a lot of people were moaning, saying that doesn't give anyone enough time to get the qualification. So now those last 2 spots won't be decided till the end of August, which for me is 3 weeks before the World Road Running Championships. And that's probably a bit too late.
Yeah.
Imagine getting a call up 3 weeks before. Like, who's, you've got to.
Well, they basically got to prep like they're going to get picked.
Yeah.
And then just.
So that's not ideal. That's not ideal. Meet somewhere in the middle, maybe get this team, selected in July or June. Give people a couple more weeks. Like obviously Sesma's going to Berlin. Give people a couple more weeks to get a time. But yeah, otherwise there's not many there's next to no opportunities in the summer.
Yeah.
But
like you say, mate, there's not many races for them to even do over a half marathon in the summer. So yeah, it's not really going to change those rankings or anything like that. Anyway, though, yeah, regardless, we're going to have really strong teams over the half to send to those. Speaking about championships, mate, should we get Preet on and talk about the World Indoors coming up?
Let's do it. A few days away. Let's get this World Indoors preview going. But here we are. We have Preet, the man, the myth, the legend, on, and he's going to help us preview this World Indoors. I mean, Preet, firstly, what are you most looking forward to? Is it Keely? Is it the men's 3000? What's catching your eye this weekend? Preet, week away.
I guess men's 3000 is probably the one which is most exciting, just because it has all the big names, right? I think 800 Keely, yes, it'll be good if she wins, and that'll be fun to watch. But I think the 3K is the race really that they're most excited for.
Yeah, and you've got any inside tips? Who are you backing in that one? Obviously, you mentioned all the big names, but is there a couple to catch your eye?
I think I think Josh. Right, Josh Kerr, I was surprised how good he looked at Millrace, given the injury he had in September. And I've never been a Cole Hocker believer. I briefly became a Cole Hocker believer when he kind of I've been like, he can win in certain circumstances, but I'm like, now everyone sees him coming. My view is always he is a little bit vulnerable, like, to getting boxed. Because he has this, he has a strategy now of going to the front of races and doing this thing, but he then gets swamped, right? And if he gets swamped, sometimes he struggles to get out that box. And I think Josh just has it right, and it just depends whether he has it. And I think in that last 50, whether he has it in terms of the speed, but if he does, and he's fully got that back, then he's a big threat. I mean, if they let race go slow, you've got George Beamish in here. So, and he's the one who beat Cole Hocker 2 years ago in Glasgow to that 1500 meter world title. So, I'm not writing anyone off.
No. Yeah. And you know what? There's 2 Irishmen who are second and third on the rankings going into this on season's best, Andrew Cosgrove and Nick Griggs. Do they walk away with a medal? Or is it too much?
I struggle to see that. I mean, I think, it's great to see them, and one of them could have a breakout, but I just think in a race like this, with all these guys in it, there's too much experience out there to, and we have seen Cosgren. He won that one big race. Was it Grand Slam, or was it just before?
He won a Grand Slam. Yeah. Kicked them all in a Grand Slam.
Yeah. But I struggle to see if it goes too quick or it's not the right race for him. I'm not sure he's quite got it to win. But yeah, I'd love to see him have a breakout.
And Jan Scrub leads the lineup as well. Beamish has run 7:39 and managed to get into this. They obviously changed for the World Indoors, they changed the qualification. Instead of world rankings, it was your season's best time. And I've been surprised, like even in the 1500, they've gone down as far as like a 3:39 is getting you into this. Obviously, it's only 2 per nation, but yeah, I guess it's the same story with the World Indoors. There is opportunity. Like, for example, James Gormley's going to run the 1500 for Ireland. He's only run a 3:37 this year. Hasn't run that standard, but they're allowing people in obviously a lot slower, which is good, I guess. And I hope this is something which carries on into outdoors as well.
Yeah, I mean, the 1500 looks
weak.
Yeah, I mean, it's Nada's to lose, right? And ultimately, everyone's like, oh, he won in a final where everyone wasn't there in Tokyo. I think, unfortunately for him, he's in a bit of a tough spot. If he doesn't win this with this field, it doesn't look good. At the same time, I think he will win because, yes, you've got the likes of a Nathan Green, Luke Hauser, who have kind of got these massive kicks. and they could spring a surprise. They're NCAA champions, Hauser won them. He's not the quickest, but he won a medal last year. But I think Nada, essentially, it's his to lose. And he was looking really good. That Eurocross relay, if you saw how he closed that relay, he was crazy. And I think he's looked decent since. So I'm probably betting the house on him to take this one. And I would be surprised if anyone else does.
Challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone else I think most people were betting the house on, Keely Hodgkinson over in the 800 meters on the women's side. Can anyone get anywhere near her, lads?
I was going to say there's one thing that I wanted to point out. So there's two Kenyans in this race. Yeah. One became the 800 meter NCAA champion this weekend. The second one came second in the mile this weekend. So that's Gladys Chepengedich and Rosemary Longisa. And if Keely showed any vulnerability, it's to a random Kenyan surprising her with tactics.
Erratic tactics.
Yeah, with random tactics. And I do think, that is probably the only way Keely loses, really. And she hasn't really raced since Tokyo, because the two 800s she's run, she front ran British champs, and Lee Van was a world record attempt. And I know Wero tried to get in the way, but that didn't last very long. And that was that. So I think if she goes out and she runs a 156, she wins. But it just does depend after that first 200. If someone gets in the way in that first 200, puts her off her rhythm, maybe tries to kind of mess up the second 200 as well, then all bets could be off. But if she managed to get out clean, obviously, I don't think anyone's touching her.
Yeah. Boffy goes in ranked third as well. Is she someone that can challenge for the podium?
I'd love to see it. I really would. And she got it done at British Champs. I think she's had a rough time at international champs in terms of on the senior level that she's done so far. She had a bit of bad luck was it in Glasgow where she had a bit of bad luck. And I think, but I think she's someone he's obviously leveled up this year. So I would like to see her put herself in the right spots. But I do worry that tactically an indoor 8, it's just a bit, it can be rough. But at the same time, there's only 6 people in these fields. So I think she might be in a better spot. Look,
I think if Boffy can get to the final, there's a chance because, Keely will run this one way. She just has to go and blitz. I think she'll fancy another crack at her world record. I mean, she did that off of one opener. I imagine she's sharpened up a little bit since then as well. She won't have wave lights and a pacer, but look, it's indoors. Do you really need it? So if Boffy can get herself in the final, there's a chance there she can sneak a medal. Good point about these women in the NCAA, Preet. I think they're just going to be too tired. That's a long travel. That's a tough turnaround for them. And the problem you've got in the women's A and the men's A is it's just beyond one or two spots out front. It's so messy. Like you're just if you're in the pack, you're at such a disadvantage. And I think Boffy's hardest thing is going to try and make that final because you just know she's going to be scrapping in fourth, third, second, like in that heat, in that qualification. So, but mate, let's move on to the women's 8 and then just quickly this women's 1500. We talk about Keely running away with it. Georgia Hunter-Bell leads the rankings by half a second at the moment. From Hylam, Gilmot in there as well, Walcott-Nolan. Does she run away with it? Is she too strong for that field as well?
Yes, I think we've got Riki and not Walcott-Nolan. So Walcott-Nolan must be the reserve if she's on the list.
Apologies, Preet. Yeah, you're right.
But I think, I think Georgia has learned a lot from last year. That experience she had at Euro indoors, which was pretty rough, and she's learned a huge amount from that. She knows she's not going to front run one of these championship races, and I think, we've got to see what the Ethiopians do because they are agents of chaos. To be honest, Hylam, her tactics are so random. She's the one who messed up Georgia's European record attempt in Levan, and it really does depend. If they go out hard, I think that will be good for Georgia because then she has a chance to drop most of the field and try and then kick past the Ethiopians in the last 100. But Nikki Hiltz is going to be a threat.
I was going to say Nikki Hiltz. I think Nikki Hiltz and Jess Hull. I mean, can Jess Hull find some form over the 1500? She's doing a 3000 as well.
Yeah, I think doubling back I'm not sure. Like Jess Hall, we don't know. Like she's had a bit of an on and off season, right? So she sometimes goes out and absolutely blitzes it, and then sometimes it's not her day, and she's been having that kind of thing going on. So if the best Jess Hall turns up, obviously yes, she can win the gold medal. But I do think Georgia still is the favourite. I think Nikki Hiltz could sneak it in the right race. I think Guillermo is an absolute threat, right? She is from France. Agatha Guillermo is an absolute. She's got devastating clothes. She's run really quick. She's looked really good. And Salome Afonso as well, who proved like at Euro Indoors last year and stuff. She won 2 medals. She's looked really good and sort of been improving consistently since. So I think there's a bunch of ladies in there who could make this race a bit of a toss up. But yeah, I think it really does depend on who goes out and makes us fast. If the Ethiopians don't go out and make it fast, it's dangerous. But we do know Hunter Bell can win those kind of races as well, because she's managed to outkick Nikki Hiltz, and we know how devastating Nikki Hiltz's kick is. But she's managed to outkick Nikki Hiltz multiple times, which I find really impressive.
Agreed. And talking of kicks, I mean, I look at this women's 3000. I think Batacletti's kick just gets better and better and better every single year. And is this opportunity she has now to become a world champion? She's going to have some tough Ethiopians. She's got Boeki and Hailu to race against, and they're a fraction quicker than her. Yeah, but I just look at Batacletti. I just think her race, the way she's raced over the last couple of years at a global level, I can't see her losing this 3000.
I think Hailu is the one Ethiopian who
not at her best though.
Yeah, maybe, but she's the world leader. She was the one. She beat Batacletti in that race, where she ran that world lead. So she has already done that this season, and she's the one Ethiopian who has decent tactics. To be honest, she won the world indoor title over 1500. She won those Grand Slams last year. So I do rate Frueni Hailu's tactics more than some of the other Ethiopians. Boeke's been improving. Like, she made a bit of a mark on the Diamond League last season. I just remember her because they got her bib mixed up with another Ethiopian and she won the race. It was an absolute mess. But she's been having a good breakout. And I think Lyndon Hall is consistently, I don't think she's necessarily a threat for the win, but I think on the podium, absolute threat. But yeah, Batacletti, I expect her on the podium, but I do wonder if Heidi beats her.
Yeah, and excited to see how Hannah Nuttall does as well. Someone who's constantly improving, obviously on the British scene, but in major championships as well, and really starting to cement herself as someone who's going to be certainly making finals, indoors and outdoors, are looking to do so, and then perhaps getting close to a medal here. And I think she'll have an eye on a medal. She certainly will have an eye on a medal at the World Indoors. I think she'll know it's a long shot, but she will certainly be trying to get in and amongst it. And I think that's almost the most dangerous place an athlete can be, where they don't think they're guaranteed one, but they know they've got a little sniff and really have that hunger for it.
Yeah. I mean, I think Nuttall, the one thing I was going to say is Nuttall, I think there's a sneaky medal there for the taking. Like, there is a sneaky bronze, and she's got her clothes on her. So in the right race, I do think she could do something. So
yeah, I think Nuttall's got to hope it's tactical enough that positioning comes into play against the likes of Lyndon Hall, Mackay, Garcia, those people, or it strings out and she's able to sort of come back to them. Yeah, I guess position is just going to be key for Nuttall, and she's going to have to step up from what she's already produced this year. She's going to need to be at her absolute best if she's going to sneak one. Hey, look, Preet, thanks very much. I know you're going to be there, so have a great weekend, and we'll chat to you next week once it's all happened.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Look forward to it.
Cheers, mate. Enjoy.
Great to hear from him. The only thing we didn't discuss was sort of that men's 800, how wide open that is as well, and what Patterson's chances in that 800.
Yeah, I think, look, we talk about this 800 being wide open. I think any indoor 800 is pretty wide open just because of how tactical and messy it gets out on the track. And if you can navigate that, if you can navigate the rounds, you're going to lose some big hitters in the heats, in the semis. So you reduce your field straight away. If you get yourself in the final, I think it's anyone's game. I really do. I think even more so than outdoors. Over the 800 meters, we always talk about the semis at the majors being the hardest thing. I think it might be similar here, and if Patterson can make the final, then he can push for the win, not just a medal.
The one thing that worries me about Patterson is just that ability to just get out and get in the right position. You look at this field, right? I mean, my God, there's 12 men, within half a second at 144, and then there's another 10, 11, 12 men at 145. 24, 25 of them all 145 and below, and they're just fractions between all of them. They just go up in basically every place is 0.1 of a second. Yeah, it's very, very deep, and I just fear that Patterson, if he's not in that top, he always closes late, and indoors, I think there is opportunity, but
no, he's going to have to take closer order.
I think these guys are big figures as well. They're you look at Crestan, Bowl, Luchtenhaus, Vidurka, even Mark English, the way he's been running. Like, there's other guys who are Patterson-esque as well. Like Muller's someone who likes to be messy and pop out from the pack. I think
they can't all do it. They can't.
Yeah,
all do it.
They can't all do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think Atui is another guy who loves to just sort of get in there and make a sharp burst at the end and work his way through. So yeah, I think it's going to take Patterson to be at his absolute best to make this final. I mean, we'd love to see him do it, but again, he's someone who hasn't really done indoors before, and I think this is bigger picture for him. He's just getting some hard races out, whilst going into the summer. But look, there's World Indoors. I mean, yeah, we're looking forward to it. We'll bring in Sikhalo, who was on the ground at the Bath half, just to talk a little bit more on those races and how they played out. Here he is, the man. Activate the burners. There were a few burners on the weekend, Sikhalo and Bath. Obviously, Wigfield's kick. You were on the ground, mate. Firstly, I guess, what was the event like, being a British Championships? Did it feel like a British Championships?
I think, to put it pretty bluntly, no. When I arrived, and when I arrived, I was really excited. The field looked really good, but it was a shame that I found out that Abby Donnelly, Lily Partridge, Lucy Reed weren't competing. The men's side was pretty stacked itself, but I think a British Championships is when the best athletes in the UK attend, and the best athletes at that particular distance were not there. So I just can't look at it as a
Carlo,
British
are you saying
Championships.
we've not had a British Championships for 20 odd years?
I mean, based on how I see it, it's been a while.
Except at Liverpool.
Apart from the cross country.
Why? Wait there. Why did those women not turn up? Did anyone explain or?
No, I think Lucy Reed was in Bath, had announced just the day before that she wasn't going to run. I'm assuming her focus is going to be London. Then I'm not sure about Abby Donnelly or Lily Partridge. They weren't there. I mean, Ben Connor wasn't there as well. So I assume they just scratched from it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, me and Lam were talking about this, and if you are preparing for London, everything probably needs to be going right in order for you to just go and do a half marathon and risk that. And it would probably suggest that their preparation is just not going as smoothly as they would have liked. They didn't want to take the risk with a race, to be honest. But I guess, I mean, we've discussed a little bit about that men's race, but how good is Alex Bell looking over the half these days?
Yeah, I mean, I think I knew she was always going to win. I think, she took a clear lead from the get-go. What surprised me is the fact that she was able to run a time like that on a course like that. And I'm not sure if you guys had seen the hill in the last mile. And when I spoke to her, she said it's about, I think, 80 to 90 seconds on a flat course. Yeah, she just looks ridiculous. I mean, she's kicked off the year really well with her races in Valencia and then in Dubai. But I think what surprised me the most was just the fact that she was able to run under the standard on a course like that. I mean, she was running with a couple sub-elite men. But you just begin to wonder, like, how fast can she go? And
you interviewed her afterwards. Where's her head at? What's obviously she's got that world road running champs ticked off. That's not for a little while.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to get back to the drawing board. Having spoken to her a couple of times, I know lots of people will probably think that, it makes sense for her to drop down to 10K, go to a track. But I think that for her is just like, it's out the picture. Like, it was really just a hard stop with the track. And I think it's just not for her. Like, she's in the new phase. Like, the roads are treating her so nicely. I say this to her every time I see her. I think, why would you return to a space where you just didn't have the best experience. So I think from a physical standpoint, like that she's doing well on the roads, but I think from a mental standpoint as well, like it's just giving you so much confidence. I reckon she probably slots in a couple road races there. She has confirmed that she will be pacing London in a couple weeks' time.
Nice.
I imagine maybe this is like building up to a marathon debut potentially at the end of the year. I reckon it's based off how she finds pacing London and that experience of just going a little bit longer than halfway. It'd be very interesting to see.
But yeah, for me, I mean, obviously we have to see a marathon debut from her, because if she wants to go to the Olympic Games and she doesn't want to go on the track, unless she's doing the race walk, she's got to do the marathon.
Yeah, pretty much. I think we'll see. I think London will probably give her a bit more clarity. And just even being amongst all the other ladies who are going to be running the marathon themselves, I think we'll probably give her the opportunity to just discuss a few things with them. I mean, like, she's coached by Andy Henderson, who's like well experienced when it comes to marathon runners. So yeah, I think that will be exciting to see later in the year.
And she's going to get the bug, isn't she? She's going to pace London, and you know she's going to come off it, and you'll interview her, mate, and she'll say, "I'm racing that next year."
Yeah, she definitely will. But I think she's also someone who has a lot of patience. I think she'll definitely get the bug, but I think she'll definitely know at what point to step up, whether that be Valencia at the end of the year, whether she takes a little bit longer and runs Seville next year, or just waits till London next year. I think she's not gonna, like, at this current point right now, if you're building up to LA, I don't think you need to, like, I definitely think you need to get a marathon in your legs, but I don't think there's a need to like rush and do one right at the end of the year personally.
No, and I would agree with that. And you look at her half, as good as that half is, she, like you say, I think she'll want to prove to herself she can go a lot quicker, and tease up that marathon debut a little bit more. Whereas, you know, if you're running 69, maybe a 225, 226, you know, especially someone like her, still, you know, her training is still ramping up. She's still getting used to that higher mileage, and she'll probably want a lot more out of herself when she does debut. Sikhalo, I wanted to ask you about we were talking last week, weren't we, about that wavelight study, which was fascinating. And my question off the back of it, I mean, for those of you who haven't seen it, effectively, there was a study done, took 45, 50 Diamond League races, men's and women's, and Diamond League races, some with wavelights, obviously majority with wavelights, some without. And the finishing times and the average times were completely different. You had the average top four placing was 3:30 on the men's side and 3:57 or something, or 3:58 on the women's side. And then if they didn't have wavelights, the average time in the top four placings was 4 seconds slower, effectively. And that was the same throughout the top 4, top 8, top 12. There was about a 4-second differential between people who ran with wavelights and people who didn't run with wavelights in the same Diamond League setting race. And it begs the question, do selectors need to start considering where you got your time? Because if you are running in a Diamond League with wavelights and you know that you're going to be 2, 3, 4 seconds quicker, like on average, that study highlighted that to me. And then you have an example. I mean, Jack Higgins is a perfect example, this indoor campaign. You know, he's out there running Lee Valley. He's out there running these races, no wavelights. Bang, goes to Glasgow, wavelights, him and McMurray, go and run a great time, chops a couple seconds off.
Yeah, I mean, to start with, I think everyone should turn up at the trials.
Yeah, 100%. But there is an element.
I think the thing is that unfortunately, it just comes down to accessibility. Like there's athletes who are just easily going to be able to get into races with wavelights. There are athletes who aren't. I don't think you can penalize an athlete for being able to, like let's say if they've got a good agent or if they've been running fast times recently, I don't think you can sort of like penalize them.
But you can't penalize them. But if you are at British Championships and, you know, for example, like someone like Sam Charrick medalled last year, and was only just he was only just a fraction behind Giles and Golillo. A tactical race, you know, I guess margins at the end are irrelevant, but, you know, he's someone who wasn't running with wavelights all year. He'd run a 3:35 or whatever, 3:36. What's to say if you get him in a wavelight race, he ain't running 3:32? And we see it time and time again. I'm just saying that maybe they should focus on that top 3 a little bit more at the trials and start to ignore those times because of the opportunity that some get and some don't.
I think based off, I think what they should do is, yes, they should focus on that top three. But I think British Athletics probably needs to set up more races or more events like Glasgow, which give everyone a fair opportunity. Because currently, as it stands, like, if you're an athlete who's just on the verge of a breakthrough, you're probably not going to be able to get into those like fast races abroad. But if you've been competing at championships, you definitely easily getting into those races. I think the good thing about Glasgow is it gave a fair opportunity for a UK based athlete to go and run the standard. And I think there should be one for indoors. I think there should be one for outdoors. There should be some sort of like Glasgow equivalent. And I mean, Tooting last year was like looked at a sort of event where you could go, like, I mean, it's called the record breaker meet, but I remember the 800 girls ran under 2-3 of them ran under 2 minutes. I think, bottom line is, I don't think they should consider wave lights, but I do think they should allow everyone an equal opportunity to get that standard, and therefore set up a meet in the UK or collaborate with a meet where they have pacers who are going to go out at whatever the standard is and allow those people to try and run the standard.
Well, we used to have it with the anniversary games, didn't we? We used to have the anniversary games post British champs. 800 meters always used to be stacked with pretty much everyone who'd been there or thereabouts in the British champs final, and they had an opportunity post champs to run their times. The one thing for me with doing that, I love it when the window's closed and we see British champs, and then we know exactly who's on the plane as soon as they cross the line. The only way to do that is to go top three, and just make the qualifying times as slow as possible, essentially. So you just basically allowing anyone in, as long as you get top three, you're absolutely fine. I think Matt, your point on wave lights is, I think it's important, but I don't think it's much different from historically just anyone who's got into any Diamond League pre-wave lights versus people who are trying to run.
It is, mate, and it is though, and that's what the study showed, that a Diamond League without wave lights was much slower than a Diamond League with wave lights. Like, we are seeing it hands down. And so
they've always been hard to get into anyways, regardless of
what I'm saying. It's always been the faster athletes get into better races that go quicker, regardless of whether it's wave lights or whether it's shoes or whatever the new tech is. There's always going to be athletes at the top who, like, it will be something else in 2 years' time, who can access better competition.
Sorry, I see what you're saying. Faster tracks, more atmosphere in the arena.
So
those sorts of things.
The wave lights is part of that, but it's no different to saying, okay, well, in 2016, when Rupp had super shoes and no one else did, or Rupp and Kipchoge had super shoes, okay, so let's take Rupp's medal away from him.
There is an argument for that.
Yeah, perhaps, right? But then it's like, well, Kipchoge had them before anyone else. So the only reason Kipchoge is the best in the world is because he had an extra 3 years on everyone else running in super shoes. Can make the argument, right? But we're not, it's semantics, and we can never do that. But what we can do is strip qualifying times away and then just let people race on the day. That's what's great about our sport, is anyone who runs what's the qualifying time these days? 3:48 or something like that for 1500 meters can go and contest the British champs. Technically could get on themselves on the podium, right?
That being said, though, if you're a selector, and I guess you have a dilemma like this past weekend where you've got some people that have turned up to the trials, but then you've got two lads that have ran some cracking times over in New York. What do you prioritize?
Yeah. Well, if that's me, I'm taking Manthorpe and Jake Smith, because that's all you can do. That's what does my head in. And this is nothing against Paddy or Rowe, because it's their choice to prep for London, but they are prioritising London, so then fine. That's great for them for London, but these boys are prioritising trying to qualify for the World Road Running Champs.
Do you think it sets a bad precedent not saying that participation at the trials is mandatory? Because I had a proper look through the selection policy, and it said that people who come to the trials will be given priority or favoured. I don't know, where do you draw a line? As if like Alfie, like if you finish third in a close finish and Paddy Lever goes and runs sub 60, where is the line? It's such a grey area in my opinion.
To be honest, I think anyone who didn't turn up at the trials is accepting that they might get to do the World Road Running Championships, but they're probably not. They're not there, knocking on the door of BA saying, let me do it. I think if Paddy and Rowe, Emil, people like that get offered, then I think they would happily run it. And who are, I guess, when it comes to something like the half as well, they're like, there's not as many tactics involved. It's not going to be a 61, 62 minute race, the World Road Running Championships is. It's going to be, they're going to run way below 60 minutes. And it's just a foot race at the end of the day. And I think we've got those last two spots, we've probably got to take our fastest athletes. I think on the track, it's a lot different because anything can happen a bit more. On the road, I just, it's just all down to your ability, really. Strongest man or woman win on the day, nine times out of 10 or 99 out of 100.
We don't know they're the strongest, though. I think that's the point, is that these guys have run 62 minutes in Bath, and that is completely different to running 60 minutes in New York. So we just don't know.
Mate, New York is a very hard course.
I'm not disputing that fact, but what I'm saying is
it was windy. It was windy. It was hilly. There's arguments New York is just as hard as Bath. New York is not notoriously a fast course.
Yeah, but if you look at the amount of people who run between 59 and 61 minutes,
they're legit. That's a legit elite field.
Yeah, and if the guys who run in Bath have had the opportunity to go and do that, then they run quicker. I'm not saying they hands down beat these guys, but all you can do is show up and beat the competition around you.
But I think this kind of shows and exposes the problem in that we shouldn't be having a debate as to who should be selected, because everyone should be at the trials. I mean, British Athletics probably shot themselves in the foot by releasing a policy
and then changing a policy
2 months ago, as to when they should have released it last August. But like, we're just going based off hypotheticals. Who knows what could have happened on the day, and tactics. Well, the race would have played out much differently if Diva was there, if Rowe was there. Definitely think one of them would have probably gone with Jake Smith. But you never know.
Well, we'll leave it there. Sikhalo, thanks very much, mate. And have yourself a good week.
I'll speak soon. Thanks.
Cheers, mate. Catch up soon. There we have it. Sikhalo obviously on the ground for Activated Burners and for us over in Bath on the weekend. Mate, just a couple more results to wrap up before we wrap up the podcast.
Yeah, we got it, mate. We got to go back to Podium Festival, Podium Classic. It wasn't a festival, but what looked like a fantastic event. Weren't there, but everyone I spoke to, it did pop off. Brilliant atmosphere, brilliant live stream as well, actually. Great coverage, I thought, when I watched it back. And yeah, I guess huge win for Matt Ransome. Huge win for old Rambo. I mean, 13:33 beats Nordas. Jamie Crowe gets third as well, right behind them. But I think 13:33 up there on the road on what was a blustery day as well. I'm very impressed with Rambo, and he just seems to go from strength to strength and just ran it so smart, sat behind the whole way. But some good times all around. I mean, what do we have? 17:18 men's sub 14 minutes, and a bunch of others right on the cusp. I mean, sub 14:10, we had 30 men sub 14:10.
Yeah, it's impressive, isn't it? And I think that course is decent, but like you say, on a blustery day, it's not
you're exposed. Yeah.
I just think really open to it.
Time of year is perfect. And that's why Sports Shoes needed to get that event off the ground and make sure it went ahead this year, the Classic. And so again, on the women's side, international victory, 15:40 for Elise, but down at second, 15:51 more Hudson. And Parker also sneaking sub 16, so some strong running for them. But probably didn't quite have the same depth on the women's side.
No, perhaps not. But like you say, five girls sub 16, and then a whole host sub 17, like the whole top 40s, like sub 17. So some decent depth in there as well. But maybe not like the top names that we've got on the men's side, like people like Kadir Omar down in 8th place and stuff like that. But decent running, particularly when there's lots of other races going on this weekend. And you say, yes, perfect time for some people. For others, they're getting ready for marathons or the tracks. A few people obviously focusing on those preparations. Look, on the track, mate, George Cootie, second place in a mile over in the NCAA. Gary Martin as well, high up in that. I think he was 4th. We obviously both been on the podcast previously. Nice results. I'm sure Cootie would have wanted to win though.
Yeah, I mean, he's the boy's looking more and more like Cole Hocker every day for me. The way he, even Preet was saying, the way Hocker pops out of these box positions, Cootie is just, he can just cope with so much in one race. And I think that's why Hocker is so good, because they can cope with the race being run a million different ways. They can cope with a fast from the gun. They can cope with surges. They can cope with being pushed around and shoved around and being boxed in. They can cope with front running. And I think that is what's so dangerous about them. That's why they're going to be so consistent. And for me, that's why they're almost unbeatable. I know they do get beat. Hocker lost the American trials. Cootie loses in the NCAA, but just very, very impressive. And
yeah, for me, I think that's their strength, and it's also their weakness. And I thought Preet made some nice points as well. And I think I'm in a similar camp in that where someone like Kerr is perhaps less adaptable than these boys. But what he does is Kerr makes sure the race is run how he wants it run.
Yeah, he controls things.
He has this ability, whether he's at the front or whether he's sitting in behind, to make sure the race plays out how he wants to, or in a couple of ways he wants to play out. Whereas I find with Hocker, he's very reactive. The issue with that is you're relying a lot on other people, and you're always trying to react to what someone else is doing rather than controlling the race. It's fascinating having like players like that in a race together, because for a spectator it just makes it so good to watch.
I agree. Just quickly, mate, before we finish up, the NCAAs was probably overshadowed by doping. You know, the Georgia sprinter gets a 2-year doping ban. She's under investigation. She went to Olympic Games, and this is, I mean, doping in the NCAA is. Do you remember when we spoke to Mark?
Time again? It's just it's an area that's so, I think, underexplored in a way. And I don't know what the answer is. Obviously, there's a lot of money in the NCAA, so they do have the resource in that sense. But in terms of like WADA, like, do they have the resource to start looking at all the college athletes as well as all the pros?
Yeah, I mean, Adidja Hodge, she won the women's 200 at the NCAAs. Big school, Georgia Bulldogs. For me, it's like when the Florida, when that's Parvesh down at Florida. It looks terrible in these schools. You know, like Georgia, you're just like, how massive school like that gets done for doping. Admits to it. She's cooperating. And, you know, when we spoke to Gary Martin, he was like, I've been tested once, straight up. You know, NCAA record holder been tested once. And that was, you know, just a P sample as well. He's like, it's too easy. It is lawless out there. And not only that, I mean,
that was by his own school. That was by Virginia Tech as well.
It's by Virginia Tech. Yeah, it's by these schools. You know, and so if there is doping within these programs, I mean, I'm sure if they're the ones doing the testing as well, you know, they can plan it in a way that nothing shows up. Not to say that, you know, these schools are programs that dope, but that's really poor. And you know, high profile athlete like that. I mean, even Iowa State pre the NCAA cross, and that guy, by the way, so there was a guy on the Iowa State's cross team who was one of the guys who got kicked off the team, suspended, blah, blah, blah. Pre-Christmas, Seth Clevenger, I think is his name. He just went and moved to a D3 school, won the D3 NCAA champs. Apparently everyone else just walked off the podium. You know, so there's lots of stuff around that. And he openly admits to doping. His teammates have lots of stories about him, and they're publicly saying these stories that the guy's taking this peptide and they've seen EPO in his fridge, you know, all the cliche stuff. And just like, what? Like, and it just, you know, I think the problem,
much information out there now that young athletes can
dope, and I think it's easy. And the problem as well with the NCAAs now with these nil deals is like there is an extreme incentive to do so, because you can make a name for yourself in the NCAA. You can then sign a big money contract whilst you're in the NCAA or as soon as you leave the NCAA, and then when doping regulations, you know, start clamping down on you, I guess you've already signed your big bucks.
Yeah,
you've made it, and you can have 3 or 4 years. You can live off a 3 or 4 year contract.
Yeah, and you've obviously got the training effect of years where you weren't getting tested, being able to train harder, repeat, etc., etc.
These big schools need to do. They need to do way more.
Yeah,
these big programs need to police that
and publicly as well. I think that's it. I think it would be a good outward like image for them as well to demonstrate all the testing they're doing. Of their athletes, and so let's hope that.
I also don't rate. Where do you sit on the whole? Oh, they cooperate, so I will shorten their sentence.
Mate, like, we've always said.
Yeah, we've always said.
Bans, like,
I know that, you know, this sprinter received a 2-year ban, but then the sentence was shortened to just 7 months. That's a track season.
Yeah,
but like she's still done the crime.
Yeah, but
and she'll just come back. She'll just come back next year. It's like, what? Leopards never change their spots.
Oh well, mate. Oh, well, at least they're catching them. To be fair, I think that's what we always finish with when we've heard about some doping. It means they're doing something. Something's being done. People are getting caught some way or another.
Yeah, I
do think it's just
there's people who know more.
It's far worse than any of the news stories that come out.
Yeah,
I do think athletics is and has been for years. Like not just in the NCAA, but on the Diamond League circuit, on a world circuit. Yeah,
I mean, at that university, there must be people that know more. There must be. So anyway, nice episode, man. We'll be back next week with the World Indoor Review, and we'll start to preview the 10 sound. 10K is on the horizon. It is now become, after Friday Night Under Lights got cancelled, Friday Night Under Lights night at 10Ks got cancelled. It's become probably the only opportunity people have to run a 10K standard. So if you're not in shape in 2 weeks or just under, you probably miss your chance of getting that qualification for the Europeans.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, obviously many athletes headed over to do that, but it's a crazy thing to say, isn't it? That basically everyone has to travel to the West Coast to
yeah. It is. It's
to
nuts.
Run a standard for Europeans.
Thank God. I mean, we snubbed it when they said road times can count at the start, but it's a good thing road times do count because there's one opportunity this year.
Yeah. There you go. Right. Thanks for listening to us. If you want to ring in and chat about your opinion on anything we've spoken about or anything you think we might speak about, Matt will obviously be sharing some topics, but any ideas you have and you want to talk about on the podcast, let us know. Send us a message on Instagram and we'll get you on the pod. Thanks for listening to us. Catch you very soon.